you try to say the sentence, "This film is about,"
Yeah.
and the only things after that are very abstract nouns, like grief or growth, you probably don't have a premise just yet.
Hey, Victoria, what's one of the biggest mistakes filmmakers make when they're trying to pitch their movie?
They can't explain what the hell it is.
Oh, very succinct.
Yeah, kind of my point. Welcome to Indie Film Podcast. I'm Victoria.
And I'm Chuck. Welcome to our 3-part series, Indie Film Conceptual Mistakes. And this week we're diving into part 1, which is not having a clear premise for your film.
Which sure sounds like a marketing issue, but I promise it comes into play a lot earlier than that. For example, how can you convince an audience to go see your film if you can't actually tell them what it is?
Good point.
Which also means they might not actually know what they just saw if you did manage to get them to go see it. And you're also going to have a really hard time getting investors to give you any money for a movie you can't explain.
Good point. I agree with you 100% on this. We should probably record a podcast about it. Oh, wait, we are. Nice.
Oh, thank goodness.
I'll start with my own shining example of not having a clear premise, if that's okay with you, Victoria.
Absolutely.
The first feature film I helped produce, write, and I starred in was called Brown Truck. And let me read you the log line from the film Brown Truck, and you tell me if you can understand what this movie's about. After 4 people test an experimental application, they begin to notice changes in their personalities. Soon, they discover they are the first humans to merge with electronics in a step towards technological and biological singularity.
So if you're listening or watching right now, go ahead and comment exactly what you think this movie is about, because I've seen it and I'm still not 100% sure.
When we first made the movie, we wanted to make a movie about the singularity.
Yes.
Which, are you familiar with the singularity?
Only because you've spoken about it.
A lot. And I maybe have explained it on the podcast. But anyway, it's the moment in time where the exponential growth curve of technology reaches a vertical line.
Yes.
So, the doubling of intelligence happens in an instant. And we wanted to play with that idea in a feature film. However, we kind of got confused in the structure and the premise of the movie, and we were instead focused more on the theme of singularity, whereas a premise is more than that.
It is.
Do you want to break down what we decided a premise is going to be?
Yes.
For this episode, how we'll define it?
Which is not just us randomly making a bunch of stuff up. This is collectively the film world generally views a premise as your character, at least one of them, the world in which they exist, the goals they're after, and the obstacles preventing them from those goals.
Yes.
Your premise can be a part of your log line. It could be your log line. It can be in a lot of your marketing and promotional materials. It can be your elevator pitch. It is not necessarily exactly what your log line or any of your marketing materials are, but it is that driving North Star that should be guiding your script and your art department and everything. The premise is very important, I promise.
Yeah, and it is a bullseye and not a nebulous cloud.
No.
And we get to see a lot of films, a lot of indie films, and one of those things that we run into quite a bit is filmmakers getting confused, especially early on in their journey, with the theme being the premise, and that's not true. Like the theme or the subject matter, like the subject matter of the first feature film that I worked on was the singularity.
And therefore it was in your log line.
Yes, correct. But that's not a solid premise for a movie.
But what's really sad is that it doesn't do justice to the film either. Because as much as you bemoan Brown Truck, it's not like it's the worst thing I've ever seen.
Well, yeah, we've seen a lot of really bad stuff out there.
Oh, I've made stuff a lot worse than that personally. Absolutely. And I stand firmly by that. But it's not doing you any favors in the execution of your film, but then also in getting the word about your film out, either to investors or to audiences or to anybody.
Yeah.
So.
And getting people excited to watch it.
Yeah.
And some other things that we jotted down here as far as theme, subject, people make movies about divorce.
Yeah.
Or they make movies about friendship.
Yes.
But it needs to be more specific of a guiding star than that.
Than just
in my
that
opinion.
One particular thing. And to be fair, this is one of 3 things that we've noticed as our favorite mistakes because we've executed them a lot or because we see them a lot in indie films or we see it a lot in big budget studio productions too.
Oh, for sure.
This is just a movie maker problem. This is not attacking indie filmmakers
No.
just talking about our own mistakes.
Having an idea doesn't require a budget.
Nope, those are free for everyone.
Yep, exactly.
So the first one, yes, is mistaking a theme or a subject for an actual full-blown premise.
Yes, and how many times have you seen an indie filmmaker try to make a movie about their own life?
I think that is actually a rite of passage. Upon graduating from film school, you must make a feature-length drama about your life. I'm pretty sure those are the rules. Otherwise, you don't get inducted, you don't get your welcome basket, and you don't get the crippling debt.
Yep, correct.
Those are the things.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, step 1, make a movie about yourself. Step 2, go bankrupt.
Yep, there you go. That's everything there is about being an indie filmmaker.
Yeah.
Till next time, folks.
And we're done.
So, like, one of my favorite examples is a divorce.
Yeah.
For your moment earlier. A divorce is not a plot.
Mm-hmm.
A divorce where suddenly you find out that the family fortune that you were supposed to inherit has now already been gambled away.
Yeah.
And now you must deal with the fallout.
Yep.
That is a little bit more. Now we know a little bit more about the world. We know a little bit more about the challenges in your life, and we have a beginning. I would still say you'd want to add a little bit more to that than just having that be your premise, because we should know at least one person involved in the story there.
Yeah.
But that's a good way to look at it. It's not, and it's not to say that you shouldn't make a heavy-hitting drama about your life, because everybody's life is interesting, and those stories, those human stories, are what makes film so interesting.
And making sure you're finding that conflict.
Yeah, but yes, focus on the conflict. It's not struggling artist, because all of them are.
Yes, correct.
It's not just, that's not the unique thing. The unique thing is what you brought to the table. It's what you specifically went through. It's who you are as a character. It's what obstacles you had. And
be open and honest about that too.
Yeah.
I feel like it is important to not try to put rose-colored glasses on your own experience if you are going to tackle a movie about yourself, and maybe change the names to protect the innocent. But
always change the names. Always change the names. Your high school bully is not going to see this film. Don't worry. This isn't your moment for vengeance. It's okay. You'll get that later in life. That's not the time.
Then you always have plausible deniability. But being open about those struggles and that deep inner conflict that you may have had throughout your life, and dramatize it.
Yeah. But
make it more succinct as well.
Yes. And if you need to, it's a movie. You're allowed to dramatize. You're allowed to raise the stakes. Mm-hmm. For example, what's the worst that could happen?
Oh, yeah, your short film.
Yeah, it was based on a true story, because I did get locked inside a hotel room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which
you did.
I thought was so entertaining, but was kind of boring when it's like, well, I went to Seattle to visit my brother, and now I'm locked inside a hotel room, and I'm just on the phone with management. They don't believe me. Like, this is not a story.
Can we make a tangent on that so people don't accidentally lock themselves in their hotel room? Can you explain the locking device that locked you in?
The lock broke while I was inside the room.
Yeah, it closed shut. So you had a door lock, the type where it goes over the top of the bolt.
Yeah, the swinging hinge type of lock, and then it got stuck in place.
And you couldn't
And I could not
it.
force it open without starting to bend the door frame itself, which made me nervous that they would then sue me for damage to their property. So I didn't want to do. It's not that I'm too dumb to figure out how to work a door lock. I know how a door lock works, though that is what management thought. And
you dramatized this.
Exactly. That was the thing, is that was not interesting enough to be the premise of a film. Now, a girlfriend who's suspicious of a cheating boyfriend who gets locked inside his hotel room and has to get out before he comes back and knows she was in there.
Yeah.
That's a better story.
Yeah, for sure. That's a premise for a film.
Yeah. So
because she's conflicted, she's trying to find evidence of cheating.
Yeah.
And then puts herself in a situation where she ends up getting stuck, and the stakes are high because she could get caught.
Exactly.
Trying to catch him.
Yeah.
Because she wants to confirm that the cheating is happening.
And the stakes of me waiting to go, I've got all day, I'll go visit my brother eventually. Like, I'll go see him later, but maybe we're doing dinner instead of lunch. Like, those are low stakes. That's kind of boring.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay to dramatize it. It's okay to add ticking clocks and higher stakes.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's what movies are.
Yeah, and I want to point out too the second thing that people get confused about sometimes is not just the subject, but information. Information is not a premise.
Yes.
Because that example there is more information. Somebody's locked inside a hotel room. That is a fact of that universe.
Yes, that is me jumping ahead.
That is just information.
It is
about the setting. And that is not a full premise.
It's not a full premise. Information is so good, but it is not a plot. It is a textbook.
Yeah, for sure. And you can make a movie starting there, but you still want to have the conflict. Oh, I forgot to mention, you do have a reality check that you wanted to share.
I just decided to jump around in the entire organization of this episode, I just really wanted to talk about the information. No, the theme or the subject. So a good reality check for if you think you might be doing this in the premise for your film is if you try to say the sentence, "This film is about," and the only things after that are very abstract nouns like grief, or growth, or coming of age.
Yep.
If that's where it stops, you probably don't have a premise just yet. You can.
Keep working on it.
You can. Then I had the Manchester by the Sea example. Like, this film is about grief, or this film is about a grief-stricken man rebuilding his life after the death of his brother while trying to raise the teenage nephew he's been granted custody of.
That is a movie.
That is a movie.
That is a premise for a movie.
Yeah, well, it is also literally a movie, too. It is Manchester by
both.
the Sea. It is both. That is the example that I stole.
Yeah.
But suddenly it's not just about this abstract concept that everyone's like, well, why do we care if it's about grief? Like, I have enough of that in my own life. I don't need to watch it on a big screen. Hopefully they don't say that about grief, I guess, but you never know. Either way. But would you like to expand more on the information stuff that I skipped ahead to?
Oh, yeah. No worries. I skipped you ahead there. But so that's kind of like the in a world.
Yeah.
That's just that part. That's the famous narrator for
every
film
trailers,
like from the 80s all the way to early 2000s, I think. Yeah. But if you're just thinking about the world, right? Like in Brown Truck, singularity, I guess, could have been a theme, but these people messing around with the devices that are letting them communicate, extraverbally, I guess would be the word for it.
Telekinetically? Telepathically.
Telepathic, communication. That's just information.
Yes.
People are communicating telepathically. Oh, okay, cool. That's some information from your movie. That's not a premise.
No. It is cool information. And it is something that you could put into a log line to give people a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it is not going to...
It's not going to carry a film.
No.
Well, maybe a short film, but not a feature film. Feature films, but...
not even a good short, right? Like, you need more than just, there are two telepaths sitting in a room talking. One, because unless you do voiceover, that's going to get real boring. That's just two people sitting in a room, maybe having different expressions on their face.
Oh, no, I like this. No, this is going to be an avant-garde short film that I'm going to make. It's just going to be 3 shots. It's going to be 2 people staring just off camera, and then a close-up on each of them. It's not even going to be dirty.
No.
It's just going to be just a single. I might even just make it one shot and then punch in and post on their faces and have them continually make weird expressions. I'm going to put on a pretentious hat when I go to the film screening at the film festivals.
A beret, preferably.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell them it's a movie about telepathy, and everybody's going to love it. I'm going to win tons of awards. Thank you very much for the idea. Never mind having a clear premise for your movie.
Forget it.
If you just do something really avant-garde and you present yourself as a very deep artist, it will find its audience.
It totally will. It's fantastic. It's the greatest thing ever. But I will say that you see this mistake a lot in bigger movies too.
Okay.
I love the example of Wild Wild West.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to read the Wild Wild West logline?
Yes.
Wild Wild West is an amazing movie, by the way. If you've never seen it, you should definitely watch it. It's highly entertaining. No, it's really awful.
There's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much going on. And to be fair, the logline, I think, does tell you that there's a lot going on.
And I'm pretty sure Will Smith did that movie instead of The Matrix, which is
Oh,
a rough
I hope
decision
that's not true.
Which is a rough decision on his part.
But he did get to write the song Wild Wild West for it, and I'm pretty sure that brought him a good chunk of change.
Yeah.
I know one of my dance troupes had a hip-hop dance to that song, so like we couldn't have been the only ones. Okay, so Wild Wild West, long line. The two best special agents in the Wild Wild West must save President Grant from the clutches of a diabolical, wheelchair-bound, steampunk-savvy Confederate scientist bent on revenge for losing the Civil War.
That's a lot of information in that log line.
And yet...
I don't feel quite as bad about my brown truck log line listening to that from a multi-million-dollar
They had a budget,
Hollywood.
and that's what they came up with.
Nice.
Yeah, they paid a marketing firm to come up with that.
Oh.
That was a choice.
Remind me to start my own marketing firm.
That will fund your avant-garde films.
I'm pretty sure most marketing firms are run by AI now, so no big deal.
Not mine. No, it's fine. So there's a lot happening there, and yet it's still not entirely clear, one, what type of world this is.
Yeah.
We aren't sure if this is the Wild West. Is this steampunk?
It's the
Why
Wild
is the
Wild
Confederate?
West.
It's the Wild Wild West.
I like how they threw the titular line into the log line.
You know what? To be fair, now that I'm reading it again, I think I did that.
Oh,
I think
did you?
My eyes just did that to me. But you know what? It plays better. So you know what? Take that, marketing firm. I fixed it for you. No,
You're
actually,
welcome.
I did try to fix it.
Yeah, you did try to fix it.
I would have gone with two rival government agents must stop a vengeful Confederate inventor from assassinating the president and reigniting the Civil War.
And there's a giant mecha spider.
Which is cool, but I feel like the film can carry that. The film can bring that.
The information needs to be in the log line on that one.
Don't know if it does.
Giant steampunk robot
There's just
spider.
So much information in that log line.
I like it.
But
I'm talking myself out of a clear premise as this podcast goes on.
You know what? At this point, maybe half the listeners are too. I don't know.
Maybe we don't need a clear premise.
Maybe we don't. Okay, but then compare that to Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Okay.
I think regardless of your feelings on the film, everybody is aware there's a lot going on in this film.
Yes.
It's literally multi-dimensional travel.
Yeah.
There's a lot. So a middle-aged Chinese immigrant is swept up into an insane adventure in which she alone can save existence by exploring other universes and connecting with the lives she could have led.
So the stakes are literally everything.
The stakes are literally everything,
Everywhere.
but she is also everywhere, and it does appear to all be happening at once.
Oh, now the title makes more sense.
Now we got there.
I should have read that log line first instead of just watching the movie.
But it didn't need to go into like silent films or Tarantino or hot dog fingers or taxes. It didn't have to go into any. The film does.
Yeah.
But your premise does not. Those are not the things that make up the premise of your film. That's just the supplemental information.
But it is a guiding light throughout that crazy film.
It is. It is because
the
at the end
mother-daughter relationship,
Yeah.
and it still keeps on referencing the premise.
it does. It stays
And it
very
does-
true to that.
And it doesn't switch premises in the middle of the movie.
No, because some of them do.
So which is always a rough thing.
Yeah,
to see
it's one thing
in
to have
here.
like a switch versus like a bait and switch. That's not great.
And Witness. Do we have a reality check on that one?
Yeah, I
Which
believe this is your reality check.
I wrote that down. If it's mostly information and not a premise, you might sound like a toddler excitedly telling a quote unquote story, which is just a series of chronological information.
I love that.
And then the ice cream truck came, and then I got ice cream, and then the ice cream was really good.
And then the
that's not a
stick
premise.
melted, and now I have a stick.
Yep, that's all information.
I guess that could be tied to the and then problem that we
Yeah,
see in
for
some
sure.
movies, for sure. So if your premise or your log line is starting to feel very and then-y, and that's not even your script, that's just your premise or your log line is starting to feel and then-y,
Yeah,
maybe that's a good time to go back and edit your script a little.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then rewrite a new log line after you get things squared away at the script level.
Be a thing. That'll be a thing.
So, do you want to talk about the messaging? People
Yes.
mistaking a premise for a message.
Yes. This one we see a lot too. And
This is as the director using the characters to voice their opinion about a subject matter.
Yes. And don't get me wrong, I don't know if there is a single movie out there that is not a little bit the opinion of the writer or director coming through some of the characters. That is going to happen all the time, forever, because you tend to write things from your perspective that you know.
Yeah.
But if your entire movie is based upon just the message, you...
Don't Look Up. I'm just going to say the movie.
Yeah.
I did not like that movie.
No.
It was really condescending to me. It felt condescending.
It was very condescending to everyone. It felt like I was being slapped upside the head by somebody on a soapbox.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it was. It was. Which is not to say that the performances weren't great, that the cinematography wasn't great, that it didn't have interesting moments or even like funny little moments. Like that is not what we're saying. We're just saying the story as a whole, the
got
premise.
Tired.
Yes.
It was tired for me after the opening sequence. I laughed. I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then it just kept hammering home. Oh yeah, I get it. The meteor is global warming. Oh, I get it. Our political system is highly volatile.
Get it.
People are taking sides on things, and the rich are rich. And we were talking about that movie versus The Menu.
Yeah.
Which is has messaging about the hierarchy and the wealthy and social class and the struggle of the lower class against the higher social class, but it expresses that artfully.
Because there's conflict and a story and characters that you care about, and the main goal is just survive this meal.
Yeah.
And those are pretty high stakes.
Yep.
Life or death, pretty high stakes. So, oh wow, because I was going to make a joke about the stakes on the plate as well as for this woman.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
I don't think we need to go that far into puns.
I dig it.
That's where we're at today. That's a good sign. But it didn't feel, regardless of your opinions about that particular message and about that particular sentiment, I guess, or perspective.
Yeah,
you could enjoy the film.
Yeah, and you could understand the perspective of the chef.
Yeah. But you can also understand the perspective of some of the wealthier people because the characters were pretty well written and they were interesting.
For sure.
And you did understand what it was about them. And especially I don't remember his name now, but the guy who brought the date because he got dumped or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And so he just brought another date, and this is a spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen The Menu.
I think we're allowed to spoil movies that have been out for 4 years now. I want to say.
I don't know.
I'm going to guess 4.
Okay. Well, when you find out that he knew that death was inevitable, but he brought her along anyway because he just needed the status.
Yeah.
I loved that. I thought that was so well done and so believable for the character. That was a well-written character. That was a well-executed performance. I liked it. I thought it was good.
Whereas Don't Look Up, I didn't care about any of those characters at all.
Did not.
They were not very well thought out. It was just a political cash grab, I'm guessing. I don't know.
That's what it felt like. And they usually do end up feeling that way. I think in the end, it actually does more of a disservice to your message if you're trying to just beat somebody upside the head.
Run for office. Don't make movies.
Don't make movies. There's so much more money in politics. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, go start a nonprofit or something like that if that's what you want to do. And then make a documentary and try to find a story if you want to make something that's politically motivated or make a commentary on culture if you're not good enough to just write the story. go find it.
That's harsh.
Yeah, or keep working on it, I guess.
Yeah, it's not a give up thing. It's a great way to test it is if you have some friends that are on the opposite side of your particular beliefs of whatever this thing is, give them the script. Is there anything about the story they can still enjoy? Yeah. If not,
that's an excellent test.
You may have mistaken your message for your premise.
Yeah, I like that. It's when those films, like I think about Don't Look Up, and it's like, well, everybody who is concerned about global warming and concerned about right-wing politics running the United States, they're just going to nod their head yes to this movie.
Yeah.
And anybody on the opposite end of the spectrum is going to just completely think it's garbage.
Yeah, they're going to tune it out completely and there's nothing redeemable.
Yeah.
End of story.
Whereas you think about, I'm trying to think of a counterexample to that real quickly because I didn't write it down, but maybe like the Colbert Report. He was coming across as an ironic right-wing talk show host, but people on all political spectrums actually appreciated his delivery.
They could find something fun and entertaining.
Because it was nuanced.
Yeah. It wasn't just a very flat perspective.
Yep.
Which is nice and makes for good storytelling. Good, compelling, interesting, conflicted storytelling.
Yeah. I like it.
So those are the three main misconceptions that we see.
Yeah.
But then we also see a lack of an engine.
Ooh, talk about engine.
I would say an engine's kind of...
It makes the car go fast.
It do. That popped out way too. I'm so sorry. Okay. But the engine is kind of it's the conflict that is going to keep this story moving forward.
Yeah.
And that can be really high stakes. That can be a ticking clock. That can be external pressures. That can be internal pressures. There are so many different options for what they are, but it's something that is pressing and moving the story forward so that there's a reason for us to watch the next scene.
A briefcase full of money. That's Dumb and Dumber, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Briefcase full of money.
Sometimes it's just a MacGuffin.
Sometimes you're just after the thing. But since we looked at one of Lower Gentry's log lines, I thought it would be worthwhile looking at one of Lower Gentry Studios' more recent log lines.
Oh, yeah.
From Stockton to Table Rock.
Did we write that down here? I hope so.
It's right here.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Weeks before graduation, a high school senior confronts her abusive mother and wrestles with whether forgiveness is possible.
Yeah, that definitely explains the movie a lot better.
You know what that movie is about.
Yeah.
You know what the time frame is. You know that just subconsciously graduation for most people it tends to be kind of that beginning of adulthood. And it's sort of this deciding moment of does this daughter want her mother in her life now that she is becoming an adult and has the right to choose?
That's what the movie's about.
Interesting. And that's what drives the story forward. We have this looming deadline. We know graduation has happened. She either is 18 or is about to be 18. She is making her own decisions. She is able to decide. You don't need to go into alcoholism, into some of the gaslighting, into what type of abusive mother she was, into any of that.
Yeah.
You just need to know this is the conflict. This is who can identify with it, and this is what's pushing it forward. Yeah. That's a compelling logline.
Does that idea make you want to turn on the movie?
Yeah.
And it will for some people.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then the film brings up all the rest of the fun, cool, interesting subtext and details.
Yeah.
Your premise doesn't have to do that.
Yeah.
I would say your premise probably shouldn't do that because then you're doing the whole information thing.
Yeah, correct. Should we talk about John August and his breakdown for log lines?
I think so, because we are kind of focusing in on the logline situation here, and John August is pretty good with them.
Yes, he's a writer. He wrote Big Fish is the example that's popping into my head right now.
Which is a fun one.
I like that movie. So he wants you to include in your logline, which this is, like you said, we're talking log lines here. We've been talking a lot about log lines, but that's obviously something that can be revisited as you continue the writing process.
Yes.
But it's good to have these aspects inside of it. So John August, in his logline breakdown, wants you to include inciting incident, hero, antagonistic force, goal, and stakes. Those 5 things.
Those 5 things are very important to have inside of a compelling logline.
Yeah.
I would also say that those 5 things are obviously very great for a premise of a film. But if my personal approach, and I guess take that with a grain of salt, I do like, when I have an idea for a movie, I do like to come up with a log line first.
Yeah. Before
the script's written.
Yeah.
And that way I have something that is guiding me through writing this story. And I can ask myself, does every scene, does every moment, does everything tie back to what this premise was?
Yeah.
Or what this log line was? And then after the script's written, I can go back and reevaluate.
Yeah.
What should my logline be now? And you can just lather, rinse, repeat that as you go through different variations. Whatever logline you come up with at the beginning, you're not married to it. You don't have to stick with it.
No.
Like, you're not even going steady. You're just kind of hanging out sometimes.
Yeah, not
That's
until
a Netflix and chill.
Yeah, not until it's Netflix and chill until you hit record.
Yes.
That's your relationship with your story.
Yes.
I like that.
So with that in mind, Chuck.
Yes.
If you were to rewrite that brown truck logline now.
You know what? I did rewrite it.
It's almost like we planned this content.
Holy cow. Okay, so this is a rewrite of the logline for the film Brown Truck.
Yes.
When Judy discovers users of a ubiquitous device are losing their individuality, she must decide between joining the hive mind or becoming obsolete.
See, that one doesn't feel like it ties at all to the first logline we heard. Just throwing that out there. But
Yeah.
two, it gives us a person to root for or against.
Yeah.
It gives us a situation and some stakes. It tells us what's happening in the world. Like, that's cool. That's good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, thank you. And that's actually not really exactly what Brown Truck is about, because it's not. It's about a lot of different things.
You're not playing Judy.
I know. As I was thinking back on the movie, it was like, oh, okay, actually, I quote unquote played the main character, but
it's more about the struggle of watching that main character
Yeah, exactly.
slowly devolve into technology.
Yeah. So with that in mind, it would probably, to do a rewrite at that juncture with that logline in mind would make the film better. I'm fairly certain.
Hey, there's always a chance. You and Bradley can team up, take it on.
Resurrect IP nobody asked for.
Brown Truck, the reboot.
Yeah. IP nobody knows about. All right. Well, hopefully you got something out of this episode. If you made it this far, please like, subscribe, follow, tell a friend.
If you found anything useful in this, perhaps if you have somebody who's recently tried to describe their film to you and has done a very terrible job of describing their film to you, just send them the link to this video.
Yeah.
That's a kind way to offer input.
Hey, you know that movie that you said you wanted to write and that script I read? Maybe you should be a little bit more concise and more direct on that.
Remember when it took you an hour to come up with a pitch over lunch to tell me what your movie was about? I've got an episode for you.
That you want me to help and or give you money for.
Yeah, because that's where a lot of those conversations are.
Yeah.
That's good.
Here's your $25. Leave me alone. Send me a link when it's done. All right. With that, shall we succinctly say farewell?
I think so.
Bye.
Bye.